other than monitoring, did you personally take any action to assist in returning these employees to the Columbia Correction Institution?
I'm going to object. This is just irrelevant. Secretary Carr's actions are not what's at issue here. And what happened after the escape, as far as the escape itself is concerned, is just not relevant.
Can you explain, please, again, your answer, your question? I kind of didn't hear it all. Go ahead, please. Mr. Cuss, let me hear it.
Sure. My question is, did you personally take any steps to take any action to return these inmates to the institution?
Okay, I think he can answer that, but I really don't see how helpful that is as an answer. Secretary Cross, are you personally involved in returning the inmates to the prison?
No.
Okay. I appreciate that feedback, Judge. I will try to move on here. So, and I guess the other question is that your leadership team, between the time that the inmates escaped and where they returned, did they take any steps to assist in the return of the inmates?
I don't know.
Okay. I got it. So, there was an investigation into the escape itself, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Have you seen the results of that investigation?
Yes.
Okay. In what context?
It was not the internal investigation, but it was the other after action assessment that I was talking about, where there were the identification of areas of concern and issues that needed to be addressed. And those were the things that that report referred to.
Okay. So we'll get back to that areas of concern in just a second. Now, the fence at Columbia Correctional Institution, that's backwards, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay. And when did you learn that?
After the escape.
Okay. And how long between when you became the secretary of the Department of Corrections and after this, what's the duration of time that you were the secretary of the Department of Corrections and you were not aware that the fence at Columbia Correctional Institutions is backwards?
The entire time.
The entire time. Okay. Did you take any steps to find out if there was any issue at Columbia Correctional Institution when you became the secretary with the fence specifically?
No.
No. Okay. Now, is the fence at Columbia Correctional Institution, is it currently backwards or something else?
It's under repair. We have immediately after finding out that the fence was installed improperly and not functioning the day of the escape, we began the process of instituting repairs.
Okay. Do you know when that fence was installed originally?
Years ago.
Years ago. Okay. So again, when you say we, you just mean you weren't personally aware that this fence was backwards and then steps were taken to correct that, right?
My only hesitation in answering is that I don't recall saying we, but maybe I did and I just missed it. But no, I was not aware of it.
Okay. So, but you're not claiming that the Department of Corrections was not aware that that fence was backwards, right?
Somebody knew.
Objection, form of the question.
Okay, I'm going to allow.
If I understood you correctly, some Department of Corrections employees knew that that fence was backwards, correct?
That's my understanding.
Okay. Do you believe the warden knew that?
I believe she did.
Okay. How about the warden before her? Do you believe that warden knew that?
Objection, speculation, that lacks personal knowledge.
Do you have personal knowledge,
No.
Secretary Carr? Then let's
Okay.
move on.
Did you reviewed the report into this fence, right?
Yes.
Okay. And that report says how long this fence was backwards, correct?
Object,
Yes.
reference to that document without it being admitted is improper.
Okay, do you want to show this document and have it authenticated and entered into the
I'd love to
record or
get this
not?
document and evidence. Thanks for that
Well, then let's
opportunity.
not refer to a document that we don't have for him to read.
Well, he doesn't have to read it. So he's just, my question to him was what if he recalls whether or not he saw this answer within that document. So, he can
Do
certainly
you
answer.
recall what specific document? Because I
Well, I
wanted
asked
to
him
know
if he
what
received
document
the
you're talking
report.
about, what document.
I asked him if he received a report at any time into the condition of this fence, and he said yes. And then I asked him if he was aware of how long this fence had been backwards, and we didn't get the answer yet.
Okay. Secretary Carr, making sure that you are telling us, do you recall what report you're referring to when you say you got a report on the fence?
Yeah, I believe I received an after-action report that identified issues surrounding this particular incident, and my recollection is that it did in fact say that the condition of the fence had existed for a period of years prior to the escape.
Okay, can you give us a better understanding what you mean by a number of years?
No, I can't.
Okay, do you believe it was longer than, when Warden Novak was appointed to a Columbia Correction Institution, right?
Objection, asked and answered.
Okay, so based
That
on
wasn't the
that
question he
knowledge,
asked, but for Secretary Carr, do you have any knowledge when Warden Novak was made the warden at Columbia Correctional?
Yes, in 2018, I believe.
okay, and do you believe, based on your review of this document, that the issue with the fence predated Warden Novak's tenure as warden at Columbia Correctional Institution?
Yes.
Okay. And you knew that, just to be clear, you knew that at the time, well, I guess let me be clear. When did you read this report?
Oh, months after the escape.
Okay.
Would it
Now,
have been before or after Warden Novak retired?
I don't know.
okay.
Go ahead.
So, let's talk about the disciplinary investigation. There was a disciplinary investigation in this case, right?
Yes.
Okay. So, how did that disciplinary investigation get started, if you know?
Well, because of the serious nature of the event, it would have been my normal course of action to direct that an internal investigation be conducted to determine what happened, how it happened, and who was involved in it happening. And because you never know if there is folks who cooperated in the escape. And the investigation eventually did show that there was some employees who, one particular employee who brought in contraband that was critical to the escape taking place. So you always conduct an investigation to determine who did what, when, and how their actions either contributed to the escape or not.
So do I understand you correctly to be saying now that you always conduct a disciplinary investigation after an escape?
No, I didn't say that. I said in this case we did.
Okay. And why did you do it in this case?
because of the serious nature of the event.
Okay. Who initiated the investigation?
I think I did.
Okay. Do you, does anybody in your office monitor news releases?
Yes,
Okay. Who is that person?
our communications director.
Okay. And does your communications director, for example, monitor any news about escapes?
I'm going to object based on relevance.
What is the relevance?
Well, we're trying to figure out what his motivations are and why this investigation started in the first place.
Okay, were news reports any part of your decision to start this investigation, Secretary Carr?
No,
Okay.
Move on.
But you saw these news reports before you initiated the investigation?
no,
Okay. All right. Did you receive any findings into an investigation against Warden Novak?
I'm sorry, are you saying at any time or before she retired, or what are you asking?
Let's start with any time and then we'll try to find out when.
Okay, did you ever receive any reports on disciplinary action involving uh, Warden Novak?
I don't recall receiving the reports that reached the disciplinary finding that required me to make a decision. There were other folks who were involved in the internal affairs investigation that I did receive reports on pertaining to their role in this event.
Okay. Who are those people?
There was, I can't remember all the names.
Well, let me ask you another way. What positions do those people hold?
There were some line staff, there was a maintenance person, there was somebody in the tower, there was a guy that drove a vehicle that drove right by the escapees as they were climbing the fence and didn't see them. There were a number of folks that were part of the investigation, including the security director and deputy warden.
Okay. And how did the Department of Corrections determine who was investigated?
That investigation was turned over to our internal affairs unit, and they actually conduct the investigation, and they wherever the facts lead them is where they go.
Okay. They don't start the
Once
investigation, right?
yeah, but once we start an investigation, my office and myself personally, we don't get involved in how the investigation is actually conducted or who they interview or who ends up in it. I just get it at the end and make a disciplinary decision because I don't want to be biased or interfere with the investigation.
Okay. Well, do you and take any steps to ensure that the investigation is fair?
When I review it, if there appears to be something that did not sit well with me regarding fairness, I have the ability to ask that something else be done.
Okay. Did you do that in this for Warden Novak?
Objection. He's already testified he didn't review any of these documents.
He said he didn't review one for Warden Novak.
Okay.
Is that, am I correct, Secretary Carr?
That's correct. I never had the opportunity because she retired before the process for her reached my desk.
Okay. And you reviewed, though, in the course of those other reports, you reviewed the issue with the fence, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And based on your knowledge, was there anybody who was disciplined based on the issue with the fence? Meaning, again, that the fence is installed incorrectly and is backwards.
Yes.
Okay. Who were those people?
I don't recall. There were
Okay.
so many.
Do you recall if Warden Novak there was proposed discipline for Warden Novak regarding the fence?
Not that I recall.
Okay. And now, based on your understanding in the report, that the issue with the fence had been going on for many, many years and was known to the Department of Corrections ahead of time, and now your position as the secretary, how is it possible that the Department of Corrections disciplined its employees based on a fence that had been installed backwards for many years?
I'm going to object to that phrase of the question, known to the DOC. It's not the DOC that has this knowledge. It's personal individuals that would have the knowledge. Secretary Carr has already testified that he did not have the knowledge.
Sustained.
Okay. So do you want me to re-ask the question?
It's one that is relevant, but and it doesn't add things that shouldn't be. Go ahead.
Wow. I mean, it's a clear fiction that the secretary is the Department of Corrections, so that we can be clear on.
The secretary said that he did not know.
Right. And the secretary is
And
not the
unless you're going to
Department of
ask him
Corrections.
specifically about some particular person that he knows had awareness, then we're not talking about this.
Well, he did
So-
say, for example, he knew that Warden Novak had awareness of it. He also said
We
based
didn't
on-
determine when he knew that he got that knowledge. And
He didn't
and he
sure.
said
It
he
doesn't
did
mean that
not
he didn't know it.
consider any discipline against her because she retired before it was referred to him. So
No, I
ask the
understand that,
question.
but he did talk about knowledge of discipline of other DOC employees regarding that self-same offense, and he did read
Correct.
those reports. So now I asked him, based on those reports, was he able to determine whether that discipline was fair?
Okay, that wasn't the question, but did you make any assessment that way, Secretary Carr?
Please repeat. There's so much going on back and forth.
I got it. So, and we'll be clear, and I'll just back up a second and withdraw the previous question. So hopefully we can go from here. You testified earlier that this fence had been reversed for years and years and years, and that although it wasn't known to you, it was known to other people within the Department of Corrections, right?
At Columbia Correctional, not
Okay.
in the
And
Department of
you
Corrections.
also testified that it was known to the warden, that you believed it was known to Warden Novak. And you also testified that you understood that issue, meaning the fence was reversed, to have predated Warden Novak's tenure as warden, right?
Yes.
Okay. So based on that knowledge and understanding, do you believe now that disciplining Department of Corrections employees related to that fence was fair?
Yes.
Objection to relevance.
Why?
I'm going to allow, but I don't see, I'm not going to let you go on for a long time on this because that's not what we have here. We don't have any report on Warden Novak. We only have him talking about other people who had a full report done. So I'll let you answer, but we're not going to continue this way. Go ahead, Secretary Novak. Did you read those different documents, correct, regarding the discipline against different people who may have been considered at fault in this escape, correct?
That's correct, Your Honor.
And did you determine that any of those reports were all of them asking you to impose discipline on these people?
There may have been some that did not request discipline, but those that did, there was some disciplinary finding imposed, and I believe that, and of course, if I impose discipline, I believe that it's fair.
Go ahead, Mr. Cross, and I think we've answered this question. We need to move on.
Great. So when you said they imposed discipline, I'm not clear on what that meant. Who is they there?
Well, I mean, I guess I should have said when I impose discipline. When I make a disciplinary finding, I believe that it's fair.
Okay. So, I guess keeping all that knowledge in mind, I guess let's be clear. What, if any, do you know what the cost to repair or replace that fence is?
Oh,
Objection relevance.
Sustained.
Okay. Do you know whether or not Warden Novak could have done anything to repair or replace that fence?
Objection speculation and relevance.
I would allow, to the extent that the secretary has knowledge of how such a repair would be requested from a warden.
sure. She could have brought it to our attention and requested that we do something about it.
And how would that have been done?
And then I would have contacted the appropriate individuals in our agency, like I did after I learned about this, and asked for some emergency funding to start the repairs of the fence.
Okay.
And how would that process have gone? Would you just need to talk to you, send you a memo, or is there a specific requisition for
Could
it?
have been a phone call, could have been an email, it could have been an in-person conversation. If
So
somebody
you would have had to do some specific requisition form in order for you to do that.
Nope. In fact, Your Honor, when we learned about this issue, I think all I did was have a conversation with my staff and said, I want that fence fixed right away. Do what you got to do to get it done. And they do all the formal paperwork and whatever needs to be done in order to put it into motion. So,
Okay, Mr. Cross?
Great. So it wasn't until the escape happened that the Department of Corrections took steps to repair that fence, right?
that's correct.
Okay. Judge, obviously I can keep going, but is there a thought about breaking for lunch?
No.
Okay, so we can break for lunch. I'm trying to figure out how long we're going to be yet with Secretary Carr.
About another hour.
Let's go.
Okay, well, I think Mr. Cross has some issue regarding health that needs to be addressed, so
I
I'm
think if you give me
great.
5 minutes, that'll be fine. I mean, I understand that Secretary Carr has other things to do.
okay, so why don't we take a 15-minute break? That gives you enough time to
Thank you, Judge.
deal with any eating issue, and everybody else can stretch their legs, and then we'll come back. All right, thank you. Just mute yourself and turn off your video.